सारी तरह के एविडेंस कलेक्ट किए जाएंगे, जो फिजिकल एविडेंस हैं, ओरल एविडेंस हैं, या जो सीसीटीवी बेस्ड जो एविडेंस हैं, सारे एविडेंस के आधार पर एविडेंस कलेक्ट करने के बाद हम जो अभियुक्त हैं उनको कड़ी से कड़ी सजा दिलवाएंगे।
मेरे पे एक ऑर्डर था, मैंने उसको क्लियर करने के बाद मैंने पुलिस को इन्फॉर्म करा। 2 पुलिस वाले मुझे जाते हुए दिखे, उन्हें मैंने इन्फॉर्म करा कि सर ऐसे ऐसे मैंने वारदात देखी है।
पुलिस का क्या रवैया था? पुलिस ने क्या कहा आपको?
उन्होंने ये बात बोली थी कि तेरे तो नहीं लगी, मगर नहीं जी बाकी हम देख लेंगे।
क्या किया है एलजी साहब ने पिछले 1 साल में, जब से वो एलजी बने हैं दिल्ली की महिलाओं को सुरक्षा देने के लिए? उनको सिर्फ एक काम है, अरविंद केजरीवाल के काम को रोको।
हर चक्के पे पुलिस रह रही है, ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाले रहते हैं, नाइट की भी पुलिस की ड्यूटी होती है, तो ये सारे कांड हो क्यों रहे हैं?
जब तक पुलिस पूरा भरोसा न देगी उधर फांसी नहीं सजेगा, जब तक यहाँ से पब्लिक खड़ नहीं सकती।
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. Massive protests erupted in the national capital demanding justice for the 23-year-old woman who was killed in the early hours of the new year in Sultanpuri. CCTV visuals show that her body was dragged underneath a car for 10 kilometers. 5 men have been apprehended and sent to 3 days of police remand. CNN News18 has also accessed the FIR, which says that they were under the influence of alcohol. They told the police that they could not hear anything as the music in the car was very loud. The victim's family has alleged that it is a case of sexual assault and they are demanding capital punishment for the accused. Big questions are also being raised over the security cover in the early hours of the new year. In fact, eyewitnesses have stated that 3 PCR vehicles crossed the car under which the woman was being dragged. But no one, just no one came to help her. Now, Home Minister Amit Shah has sought a report from the Delhi police. But imagine the state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen, where a human being is dragged under a car for 10 kilometers in the national capital and no one, not even a cop, raises a red flag. Politics, unfortunately, has once again erupted over this case, with the Aam Aadmi Party demanding the ouster of LG, that is the Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena. But the main aim is not just justice for this young woman, but a cold, hard look at the state of policing in the national capital. First, here's what happened today.
A horrific start to 2023 in the national capital. A 23-year-old girl was hit by a car and dragged for several kilometers in the Sultanpuri area. The 23-year-old victim's body was found naked on the road when the police finally reached the spot. The 23-year-old girl was on her way back home after work on her scooty when a car allegedly hit her scooter and she fell off, got entangled in the car's wheel.
जो अभी तक का इन्वेस्टिगेशन है उसमें हमें ये जानकारी मिली है कि उस लड़की की जो बॉडी थी वो उस गाड़ी में कहीं स्टक की है और वो कई किलोमीटर तक, लगभग 10-12 किलोमीटर तक उन्होंने ड्रैग किया है और फिर वो किसी टर्निंग के दौरान कहीं पर वो बॉडी गिरी है।
The victim's body was dragged from Sultanpuri to Kanjhawala in Delhi before her body fell off on the road. Eyewitnesses informed the police that they saw a body was being dragged along with the car and the car took a U-turn near the police station.
अगर सैन हॉस्पिटल वाला रोड है, उस रोड पे मैंने जैसे ही अपनी बाइक मोड़ी, वहां से गाड़ी आई, मेरी बाइक उनकी गाड़ी से टकराने से बची और गाड़ी होगी मेरी अनबैलेंस। तो मैंने जैसे ही अपनी गाड़ी संभाली, उनकी गाड़ी रोहिणी की तरफ को मुड़ चुकी थी। तो जब उनकी गाड़ी रोहिणी की तरफ को मुड़ी, 100-150 मीटर की दूरी पर पुलिस चौकी है। उस पुलिस चौकी को देखकर उन्होंने वापसी गाड़ी मोड़ी कंजावला की तरफ को। जब उन्होंने गाड़ी मोड़ी सिंगल रोड पर, तो गाड़ी में आवाज आई बहुत तेज। तो मोड़ने की स्पीड में जब गाड़ी मुड़ेगी तो तेज की आवाज आएगी। जब आवाज सुनकर मैंने पीछे मुड़ के देखा तो उस गाड़ी में से गाड़ी के पीछे से लड़की का सर लटक रहा था।
Massive protests have broken out in Delhi's Sultanpuri area. Protesters slammed police for going slow. AAP MLA Rakhi Birla's car was even vandalized when she visited the site.
क्या डिमांड
हमारी कुछ डिमांड नहीं है, उन्हें हमारे हवाले कर दिया जाए, 5 तो हमारे हवाले कर दिया जाए। हमें फांसी चाहिए, बस हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए।
इनमें जो 5 लोग हैं, इनमें से किसी को जानते हैं आप?
हम नहीं जानते, सब अनजान है, हमें नहीं पता इन चीजों का सब।
Politics has taken center stage over the incident, with BJP and AAP blaming each other. AAP protested outside the Delhi LG office, alleging that the accused were being shielded, while the BJP hit back, saying AAP is trying to settle its own scores with the LG.
ये बेहद शर्मनाक घटना है और समझ में नहीं आता कि हमारा समाज किस तरफ जा रहा है जब कुछ लड़कों ने अपनी गाड़ी से एक लड़की को कई किलोमीटर तक घसीटा और उसकी बहुत दर्दनाक मौत हो गई।
जब वो घटना हुई क्या उनको मालूम था, पुलिस वालों को मालूम था क्या कि ये लोग बीजेपी के लोग हैं या एलजी साहब के लोग हैं? किस तरह की बातें करते हैं, ये किस तरह की राजनीति कर रहे हैं? अपने स्कोर सेटल करने के लिए एलजी साहब के साथ जिस प्रकार का भाषा का प्रयोग किया जा रहा है, जिस प्रकार की राजनीति की जा रही है, वो निंदनीय है।
The big question is, has politics derailed Nyay in the Delhi hit-and-run horror?
But let's take you through the shocking CCTV visuals which lay out the crime. These are the visuals of the young girl on her scooty just moments before she was hit by the car. These next set of visuals show that the body being dragged, that is there. The body being dragged under the car. Remember, it was dragged for over 10 kilometers. That's how horrific this entire incident has been. Here you can see the car from another angle, where the body can be seen being dragged under this Maruti Baleno. Once the accused realized something was wrong, they removed the body and left her on the road naked. Several unanswered questions in this case, but the FIR clearly says that these accused did not know about it, and this is not a case of rape or sexual assault. So will justice be delivered, and what is it about the larger question that relates to the law and order in the national capital? Let me take those questions to the panelists who are joining me now. Vineet Goenka, BJP spokesperson. We have Abhinandita Mathur, spokesperson of Aam Aadmi Party. Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer. Seema Kushwaha is an advocate of someone who played an important role in the entire Justice for Nirbhaya movement. And Abha Singh is a lawyer as well. I want to move away from politics because throughout the day, what we saw was just pure politics playing out. I want to understand from you, Yashwardhan Azad, if the family, in this case the mother, says that the girl has been raped, then why have those sections not been included in the FIR?
Well, you see, the FIR, I don't know, was lodged by whom. There was a witness who was there at 3:20 a.m. and he said that he had seen the incident. Well, is it on the basis of that, or the FIR has been lodged by the police itself? Let me say that the first information report is basically what you get right in the beginning, and that time there was no mention of sexual assault. The sexual assault allegation came later. Now, for the police should not have been that insensitive to say anything. They should have just said that we are investigating the matter, and the very fact that the body had been dragged for such a long time, it was obvious that it was a very grave time. So instead of registering 304A, which is a very simple case of rash and negligent driving, it should have been a case of culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. So, beginning, it is important that what statement you make, because now another allegation has come that maybe she was being chased right from the venue itself, because these people were in an inebriated condition.
Yes, because if we look at the sections, that certainly is raising question about the manner of investigation so far, because there are several unanswered questions here. And come in on this, Seema. Has the woman been sexually harassed by the accused? Because if her body was found without clothes, that is the question that will be asked. Was she killed like this after she protested over the harassment? And for how many kilometers was she dragged by the car? Was there no check post or any PCR van that was deployed in this entire stretch? Because every time we look at this incident, we realize that this is very gruesome, far more shocking than it to be just dismissed as hit and run. Seema? Okay. I'll try and connect that, get that line with Seema. Abha Singh, please respond to that question. Go ahead.
The issue is here, it was first a case of hit and run, and if the family had apprehensions, then the police should have said, okay, we are waiting for the postmortem report, we are going to get the report saying whether it is a sexual assault, rape or not. But the bigger issue is here that for 10 kilometers, if a body is dragged, where are the PCR vans? Where are the police on the roads? You have around 800 police patrol vans in Delhi with 5,000 staff. So what were they doing? They could not nab them, and by the time these guys ran away, and when their medical would be done, I'm sure the alcohol content in their blood would be negligible. Also, what is worrying is that you always, this is not the first time. In fact, in the Palm Beach hit and run case also, the police had put lighter charge, and only when there was a media hue and cry and people came forward, they put stronger sections. So why is police, be it pan-India, doing the same thing again and again? Why do they not take hit and run cases seriously? 50% of accidental, these motor vehicle accidents with two-wheelers, the 50% of the deaths are of two-wheeler people. So this is very important. But yes, it's very sad that BJP and AAP are trying to get political mileage out of it. Please do not trivialize the issue. The spokesperson are here. Look at it with seriousness. Look at it as a law and order issue. Look at the leakages that were there, the loopholes which were there. Otherwise, maybe this girl could have been saved after the event was hit.
Yes, because the reports that are coming in now is also, Abha, that there were 3 PCR vans which crossed this Baleno. And they were not really aware and they did not react that a girl's body was being dragged for 10 kilometers. I mean, we are looking at not a B town or a satellite town. This is the capital city of India, where the policing has to be high class, where each and every corner must be policed in a manner that such incidents do not happen. And what lessons have been really learned, Vineet Goenka, from 2012 when Nirbhaya incident happened? Where is the police? Why is the police being caught napping again? And if anything, if we look at the charges or the sections, this is a case of shielding the accused.
Mari Ram Ram to you, to my co-panelists and all the viewers who are here. This is a shameful and a very painful situation where we have seen one of our sisters been killed like this. And I agree what the earlier panelists said and what has been discussed the entire day. My suggestion would be, let us wait. FIR does not mean it's the end of the charges to be filed. FIR is the first information which the police had. Subsequently, as the forensic report comes, probably the more sections will be added. And I'm sure police will not leave any stones unturned. I have a faith in police, not only of Delhi police, but also of Punjab police and other polices which are there across the country. Having said so, it was also, one more thing we'll have to see is that how does our society go? And we'll have to train our people to be little sensitive towards these particular incidents. It is also unfortunate that our other political party took a vulturish approach to this and they protested outside the office of the LG. My request to them will be not trivialize this particular issue.
Who is trivializing this entire incident? If it is about justice, shouldn't all political parties speak in one voice that let there be justice for this 23-year-old rather than making it about you targeting the LG because you realize that this is an issue which has come to you on a platter? Ms. Mathur.
Are you asking me?
Yes. Yes, Ms. Mathur, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, there are a couple of points that I'll have to make and I'd really request you to allow me. I did hear Advocate Abha ji speak and I do agree with her that there are some serious issues in this matter. Number one, if the if the crime was being committed or it was noticed, then why was the FIR not being filed on time, and why did the girl's parents have to wait for so long? What was the hurry for the DCP to do that press conference? There are many reasons why, why we have to wonder what exactly was the police trying to hide. If you look at the statement of one of the witnesses, he also said that, he tried to call the police, for almost 2 hours and could not get through to them. And or either they would not believe, and some PCR van officials were actually drunk. Now, all these matters are political. And why I say this is because, of course, the job of a political party, especially in opposition in this case like us, is that we have to raise the voice of the people. So I don't understand the problem with raising a voice, raising, a concern that the city
being
has.
raised in the manner in which it has been, ma'am. My limited question is that you have raised all the valid questions about policing, about the PCR van cops being in a drunk state. All these are valid questions that should be raised about the national capital and the larger question about safety of women. But why make it about Aam Aadmi Party versus the Lieutenant Governor? How does it really help?
Actually, we have not made it about that. The truth is that, and the people of Delhi have trusted us with their mandate more than twice. Now, you have to understand that, we all year long, most of the time, the LG is actually putting hindrances to the work. And give me a moment to finish. And the reason why.
So tell me, what has the Aam Aadmi Party done? What has the Aam Aadmi Party done with regards to ensuring that there are proper lights on the streets? What has the Aam Aadmi Party done with regards to
the job? They have a very critical job.
Yes,
they have the job to maintain the law and order. And if they're not going to do that, why should we not call them out? LG sir has all the time in the world.
Respond to this. Vineet Goenka, is Delhi suffering because of this dual
sending
charge, or should I say confusion over who should be policing Delhi? And who is really in charge of Delhi as a state or a half state?
Legally, is it not?
Ma'am, can I answer?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Can I answer it,
please?
Please.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably, see, the state of Delhi and the services here have been defined, and they have been there for decades. Now, this has not changed when Sheila Dikshit was Chief Minister and Nirbhaya happened, or today. There is no deletion in the powers of the Chief Minister. And if Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit was responsible for Nirbhaya, and the same Aam Aadmi Party was crying foul that time, I think. Yes, if you ask me, there are corrections in the police which has to be done. Abaji's husband was a police officer. Mr. Azad was a police officer. They would agree that it is a high time we do some kind of accountability to the police, and this will be done. In this particular transaction, in this particular case, if they have been found guilty of not obeying the or getting into the action, probably actions will be taken, which are departmental actions and also criminal actions if required to be taken out.
Okay, let me bring in Seema now.
I want
to move away from politics. I have just enough time to get views from Seema and other experts on the panel. Seema, the accused here have been booked on charges of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, causing death by negligence and criminal conspiracy. Yashwardhan Azad says that this is not the final FIR, perhaps the charges will be added at a later stage. But we know what happens in investigations of this nature. Seema.
Maria ma'am, 204A, अगर ये मैटर नेग्लिजेंसी का है तो फिर एक चीज क्लियर है कि क्या 13 किलोमीटर तक उस लड़की को ये लोग घसीटते रहे, क्या एक्सीडेंट होते हुए इन्होंने नहीं देखा? और अदर पर्सन करीब 100 मीटर के डिस्टेंस से जो दीपक है जिसने फर्स्ट कॉल किया 100 नंबर, वो पर्सन देख रहा है, बता रहा है कि 100 मीटर पहले से आवाज आ रही थी कि गाड़ी में कुछ चीज घसीटी जा रही है और उसने देखा, और वो पर्सन सारे तब तक उस गाड़ी को मूव करते रहे जब तक वो डेड बॉडी उस गाड़ी से अलग हटके गिर नहीं गई. इट मीन्स इंटेंशनली उनको सब पता था वो बेटी अगर एक्सीडेंट भी हुआ था तो बचाई जा सकती थी. बट ये नेग्लिजेंसी के साथ साथ मुझे लगता है कि फर्दर अगर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा तो डेफिनेटली ये मैटर मर्डर का भी हो सकता है. जिस तरीके से ये बताया गया कि उसकी बॉडी पर एक भी कपड़ा नहीं था, उनके परिवार ने डाउट क्रिएट किया है कि उनकी बेटी के साथ रेप भी हो सकता है। मैम, वो लड़के ड्रंक हैं, वो लोग मस्ती में आ रहे हैं। एक बेटी जिसके साथ जो स्कूटी से अगर टक्कर लगी तो क्या वो कहीं और ना गिर करके उनकी स्कूटी में फंस गई और उनको करीब 13 किलोमीटर तक पता नहीं चला। ये किस तरीके की एक स्टोरी क्रिएट की जा रही है। दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है मैम कि जब ये फर्स्ट कॉल पीसीआर कॉल की गई उसके 2 घंटे बाद एफआईआर लॉन्च हो रही है। ये किस तरीके, तो मुझे लगता है कि प्राइमरी लेवल पे देखा जाए प्राइमा फेसाई तो नेग्लिजेंसी इसमें दिल्ली पुलिस की है। Okay. और उनके
again the question about the role of Delhi police. The role of Delhi police, Yashwardhan Azad, is again under the scanner. Considering the gravity of this incident, should the cops have been more circumspect in jumping to the conclusion about, you know, they were drunk, that there was no intention to kill, and all those stories that are being built around this incident?
You see, I've already said at the beginning that in an incident like this, which is a very, very sensitive and a horrific case, the police should be quite circumspect in making a statement just at the beginning itself. There were allegations of sexual assault which came later, and it was quite proven. It was known to the police that the body has been dragged. So obviously, it was of a much more grave nature than an ordinary 304A, 279 rash negligent driving leading to a death. So this was clearly a case which was established of a culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. If you take both the sequence of events, that is, first this was a hit, where we decided it was an accident, and then being dragged, which was obvious that any vehicle, for any driver which we drive the cars, we know even the smallest thing attached to the mudguard or something we get. So obviously you know exactly that you're dragging that body after that. So then it becomes a much.
I have just enough time for Abba Singh and the final word. Abba Singh, will we see a fair and time-bound investigation in this matter? The reason why I'm saying is that 2012 Nirbhaya happened. Post that, there have been several incidents of sexual assault against women in Delhi, in the national capital. And these incidents and cases only rise particularly during the New Year's time. And when it comes to policing, we seem to raise the similar questions that we are doing today.
Absolutely, Maria, I agree with you. In fact, these guys, the boys who were driving the vehicle were drunk, and they would have seen this young girl driving a scooty returning from work. So maybe they purposely banged into her. At times, I've seen so many cases where young girls who are driving, they are pushed, they are banged by these vehicle drivers. So I don't rule out sexual assault in the sense they may not have raped her, but they would have definitely tried to molest her. So that is one issue which needs to be investigated. And yes, the traffic sense, the traffic constables have to be on the roads. And when we all remember how girls were molested on New Year in Mumbai at a hotel and so why are they not more alert? Why were there not more policing? And if you said there were 16,000 people, where were they? How could for 10 kilometers a young girl dragged like this? Maybe if you had reached for immediate
help. It's shameful, and perhaps this girl, who was the only breadwinner of a family, could have been saved had police been more alert, particularly on New Year's Eve, when we know that there are these men who are out there drunk, partying, and the nature of which means that there is a certain group which is vulnerable, which is at risk. Thank you so much for joining me. Vineet Goenka, Abhinandita Mathur, Yashwardhan Azad, Seema and Abba Singh. We are shifting focus to our second debate. In what clearly is a big boost to the central government, the Supreme Court today upheld the Modi government's demonetization policy from 2016. A 5-judge constitution bench today dismissed a batch of petitions, around 58 pleas, which claimed the power to demonetize currency lied with the RBI and not with the central government. The court refused to reverse the policy, calling it within the ambit of the executive's economic powers. 4 judges upheld the legality of the policy, with Justice B.V. Nagarthan dissenting. Justice Nagarnatha said that the policy was flawed only on legal grounds, saying the legislation or ordinance route was more valid. But demonetization, and namely the long lines in front of banks that we saw for weeks, has been one of the signature attacks of the opposition against the Modi government. The opposition claims the execution of the policy was haphazard and caused multiple problems, something the top court did not touch upon. But the BJP has claimed vindication once again. First, it was the historic sweep in the 2017 Uttar Pradesh elections right after demonetization, and now it is the Supreme Court ruling. So, has the BJP won the political war over demonetization once and for all? On the show, we'll be joined by BJP MP and former Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad. But first, here's what happened today.
8 नवंबर 2016 की रात्रि को 12 बजे से 500 रुपए और 1000 रुपए के करेंसी नोट कानूनन अमान्य होगी.
6 years after Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation and announced the decision to demonetize 500 and 1000 rupee currency notes, in a landmark 4:1 majority judgment, the Supreme Court called the policy valid. Speaking for the majority on the bench, Justice B.R. Gavai said the purpose of demonetization was proper and there was prior consultation between the government and the RBI. The bench ruled that it was not relevant whether the objective of the overnight ban was achieved or not. There was reasonable nexus between the objectives of clamping down on black money and demonetization. The action of demonetization and the time period given for currency exchange were not hit by the doctrine of proportionality, and that the government has the power to demonetize all series of banknotes and is not limited to one series alone.
It has been held that there has to be a great deal of restraint insofar as interference in the matters pertaining to economic policy is concerned. The court cannot substitute its judgment for that of the legislature or the executive. It does not supplant the feel of the experts with its own views.
But one of the judges had a dissenting verdict. Justice Nagaratna said that while the object of demonetization was noble and well-intentioned, the process undertaken was bad in law. She said the policy of demonetization should originate from the central board of the RBI and not the government. There was no independent application of mind by the central bank, and the entire exercise was carried out in 24 hours between the 7th of November and the 8th of November 2016. An opinion of the RBI Central Board was sought only after the government took the decision to demonetize 86% of the currency. While the BJP claimed vindication,
इस पॉलिसी की नीयत और नीति ठीक थी. It was well intentioned. जिस तरीके से ट्रांसपेरेंसी आई है, और आज इस विषय को उठाने का दिन है, डिजिटल पेमेंट में कितनी बड़ी गति आई है.
The opposition latched on to the sole dissenting judgment.
The majority Supreme Court verdict deals with the limited objective, limited issue of the process of demonetization, not with its outcomes.
99.30% demonetized money अब सिस्टम में आ गया. इसका मतलब कोई ब्लैक मनी रिकवरी नहीं हुआ. जीडीपी ग्रोथ गिरा नहीं गिरा. डिमोनेटाइजेशन गलत फैसले की वजह से प्रधानमंत्री के.
The demonetization decision had sparked massive confusion and chaos for several days as people scrambled for new currency notes. There were long queues outside banks and ATMs for days on end. So has the Supreme Court's verdict blunted the opposition's attack?
So what have been the key achievements of the demonetization policy? Let me give you an overview. 238,000 shell companies were caught and shut down. Remember, the government says that this was a law to ensure that the black money is curbed. There was a black money law which was brought in as a follow-up to demonetization. The informal sector, this is important, that component of the economy has seen a major rise with a turnover of over 1 lakh crore in 2022, which is a boost of around 30% from 2021. Terrorism has been dealt a blow with dwindling attacks, with the choking of the terror funding. We are seeing that clearly unfold. And stone pelting in Jammu and Kashmir, which was fueled by this fake currency racket, has been effectively tackled with. India now has the fastest growing fintech market due to e-transactions, and there has been a major rise in tax collections and an improvement in tax to GDP ratio. Cash transactions in the housing market, which were the root of corruption, have been reduced by 75 to 80%. So these have been clear outcomes of this move of the Modi government in 2016. We have seen it play out between the BJP and the opposition, and leading the BJP and the government's charge today was Ravi Shankar Prasad, former law minister. He joins me live from Patna. Mr. Prasad, really appreciate your time. Your political opponents are certainly not convinced despite this 4-1 verdict. P. Chidambaram, the former finance minister who has been very critical of this entire demonetization move of your government since 2016, has said, and I'm quoting him, the minority judgment brings out the profound distinction between the preliminary legislative power of the parliament and limited power of executive government. How do you look at this criticism, even as you claim that you stand vindicated?
I don't think, Maria, we have to learn about the implications of judgment and which judgment is to be followed from the new understanding of Chidambaram. As a senior advocate, he can criticize the judgment, but can he say, hey, I will appreciate the minority judgment more? It was a constitutional bench decision where the majority judgment comprising of 4 honorable judges has clearly stated that this was for a laudable cause. Therefore, Maria Shakil, let me tell something for the kind consideration of Mr. Chidambaram. With my small understanding of law, policy framing is the responsibility and right of the government of the day, accountable to the legislature. And whenever it is challenged in a court of law, the court basically sees 4 things. A, has the decision-making process being fair? The Supreme Court majority said yes, they also saw all the documents. Is it arbitrary? They said no, it is not arbitrary. Is it in violation of some law? No. Is it in infraction of some fundamental right? No. The matter ends there. That is the whole jurisdiction of the court. The minority view is there, but remember one thing very clearly and categorically, Maria. Even the distinguished judge in the minority dissenting judgment has clearly noted that this policy has a laudable objective.
Yes.
This is very important to be appreciated. He has said it ought not to have been done by a legislation on the floor of the House. Fair enough. But the substance of the policy for a good cause, can we say today terrorism is not down? Can we say that more than 200 fake companies in circulation of money have not been traced? Can we say that today's formal economy has registered an enormous rise? The informal component was 52%, now it is nearly 18%. Have we seen the enormous rise India has made in digital payment globally being recognized?
Sir, since you're talking about the benefits, but Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress president, says, और उनको हम कोट करते हैं, उनका कहना है काला धन नहीं कम हुआ, नकली नोट बढ़े और असंगठित क्षेत्र तबाह हुआ. बहुत सारे लोग रोजगार, जिन लोगों का रोजगार छीना गया और 120 लोगों की जान गई. यही नोटबंदी का परिणाम है. आप इनके बयान को किस तरह से देखते हैं?
मैं खरगे साहब की बात को उन्हीं की भाषा में जवाब दूंगा. खरगे साहब, आतंकवाद में कमी आई कि नहीं आई? कश्मीर में पत्थर फेंकने वाले अब शांत हैं कि नहीं? हुर्रियत का दफ्तर बंद हुआ कि नहीं? पीएफआई के ट्रांजैक्शंस खत्म हुए कि नहीं? ये मुझे पहले बता दीजिए. और मैंने बताया इतनी कंपनियां जो पकड़ी गई हैं, 2,38,000 शेल कंपनी, वो पकड़ी गई कि नहीं? और ये वो नहीं समझते हैं कि डिजिटल पेमेंट आज ऑटो वाला भी करता है, मोहतरमा मारिया शकील. एक परचून की दुकान भी करता है, वो भी गूगल पे से, SBI पे से लेके पेटीएम कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है? तो आज मैं कह रहा हूं कि ये बहुत जानना जरूरी है कि informal sector participation in the economy has reduced from 52% to 18%. अब आप मुझे ये बताइए कि खरगे साहब क्या हमारे पक्ष में बोलेंगे? अरे खरगे साहब अब पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष हैं, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस पर मोहर लगा दी, तो एक बार तो कहते हैं कि वी आर सॉरी, वी एक्सेप्टेड। इन लोगों ने राफेल जजमेंट पर आज तक सॉरी कहा है क्या? जो उन्होंने कैंपेन किया था देश भर में राफेल के खिलाफ, 2019 के चुनाव में मारिया शकील मैडम, इन्होंने हमारे प्रधानमंत्री पर क्या क्या आरोप लगाया था, पता है ना आपको? फिर भी खामोश। तो अब चलिए वो अपनी बात कहें, हमें इस बात की खुशी है। सच ए मॉन्यूमेंटल पॉलिसी इनिशिएटिव of extraordinary courage taken by our Prime Minister for introducing transparency in the economy of the country has been validated today by the Apex Court.
Mr. Prasad, specifically talking about the overall situation in the valley, over the last few months we have seen targeted killings of the Hindus in the valley, and several of those who were, participant of the Naya Kashmir story. How much of this demonetization, the intent that it will curb terrorism, how much of that has been achieved, sir?
My reply is very simple. Some elements of desperation do sneak from across the border. And what is their shelf life? 1 week or 10 days or 15 days or at most a month? You have seen that. The same will happen what you're referring to. But is there any organized brickbatting? Are the terrorist-sponsored offices closed or not? Their nexus broken or not? Let us talk more on that. God forbid, is there any organized terrorist attack in India? As it used to happen earlier? Whether in Mumbai or others? Because all their linkages have been controlled and contained, which used to be funneled through shell companies, sending money from across the border through dubious means in cash and being used. That's the point I would like to highlight. As far as Naya Kashmir is concerned, I always say, आज कश्मीर के बच्चे तिरंगा लहराते हैं ना, क्रिकेट खेलने का दामन देखते हैं ना, हमारे शायद जौनपुर या मिर्जापुर की वो बेटी सानिया मिर्जा आज एयरफोर्स का प्लेन उड़ाने की हिमाकत दिखा रही है ना, ये भी एक नया हिंदुस्तान है, उसको भी देखिए आप, लेकिन उसको लोग नहीं देखेंगे, यही समस्या है.
Mr. Prasad, last question to you. You were the law minister when this entire policy was rolled out. You have talked about the benefits of it, but as expected, one would say the opposition is looking at the minority judgment. Will you be saying today that the policy after 6 years has stood the test of time?
Six years is a long period. Just to give you that demonetization was one aspect of it. I hope you recall, you follow our government, the parliament very closely, Maria. In 2015, we introduced the Black Money Undisclosed Foreign Income and Asset Imposition of Tax Act under the Income Tax Disclosure Scheme. You remember that? 65,250 crore of previously undeclared income has been declared. Benami transaction has also been amended. You know it very well. Many Brahmani property have been also confiscated. Money Laundering Act has been made more stringent. And you see the results of that, regardless of people trying horse. My charge which I made at the press conference today, I will repeat before you, Maria. This whole informal element in the economy, more than 52%, has significant patronage from the Congress party and their peers. And therefore no action was taken. You all know it very well. And Modi ji is bold enough as a courageous leader to take decision, and the results are there. That's how I see it.
All right, Mr. Prasad, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me bring in the guests now. Gopal Krishna Agarwal is the BJP spokesperson. Shama Mohammed representing the Congress. R. Gandhi is former Deputy RBI Governor. And Ashwini Dubey is Supreme Court advocate. Mr. Gandhi, I'm going to begin with you. How do you look at the Supreme Court's judgment?
Thank you. The judgment, of course, has endorsed the illegality or the legal process that has been followed for taking such a monumentous decision. That gives clarity across all the minds. Of course, there is a dissenting judgment about the particular process. That's a particular view expressed by the honorable judge. So that we accept that. But otherwise, the whole process which we went through, we had the confidence that we have followed the legal principles and the legal requirement. So that has been endorsed by the Supreme Court verdict. So that part is certainly fully clarified now. So that's the first reaction to the judgment. Of course, the Reserve Bank, as its wont, had gone through, had been discussing it with the government and deliberated a lot. And finally, the recommendation had gone to the government for that. So that process has been endorsed now.
Okay. So that process has been endorsed, and this entire process of demonetization was not unlawful, has also been corrected. If anything, it followed the right process is what the Supreme Court has said. And it says very clearly that it appears there was consultative process between the centre and the RBI. Shama Mohammed, since the Congress is quoting the minority judgment, and I'm going to quote that only, in which the Justice says that demonetization was beyond a pale of doubt, well-intentioned, best intention and noble objects are not under question. So now, will the opposition stop its criticism about demonetization?
No, we will not stop our criticism because we feel it is a bad policy decision even today. Now let's look at the Supreme Court judgment. It basically criticizes it does not talk about the outcome, but says about the process. It doesn't, it says there's nothing wrong with the process, but the outcome is wrong. Now, my take, or what I feel, is that the judicial review of the executive is limited. So when PILs were coming in the Supreme Court's way, I believe the Supreme Court should not have entertained. Because when you entertain some petition like this, then you must be just to the people of this country, to the society, and to democracy. Because today I feel the Supreme Court has failed in its duty to the people of this country and has failed as people of this country. Because the outcome of this process, Supreme Court looked into the process, but I believe it should have looked into the outcome. The outcome was disastrous. You remember very well how even I was standing in the line, you were standing in the line. 150 people lost their lives. A lot of livelihoods finished. I remember many people have committed suicide during the time, business people, because it was all of a sudden at 8 p.m. the decision we all heard, and a lot of people we were able to get out of it. And the worst thing, Maria, is when 15.44 lakh crore was demonetized, 15.28 lakh crore came back into the account.
Since the Supreme Court verdict is very clear and emphatic, if anything, it says very clearly that from the record, it appears there was a consultative process between central government and RBI, because your party says it is about the process that they were questioning also. So the top court has observed that the consultative process between the central government and RBI for over 6 months before the decision was taken, and that Supreme Court has held the demonetization cannot be struck down on the grounds of proportionality. You are essentially questioning the outcome. Now, as far as the outcome is concerned, even on the question of outcome, the minority judgment says it was well-intentioned and well thought of. My question then is that is the Congress party looking at challenging this verdict?
No, I told you again, what is the point of challenging?
Okay, so you're planning to... Okay, so there is a judicial review is one thing that... Ashwini Dubey, here is the Congress party which feels only because the outcome or the verdict was not in favor of their view regarding this policy. That is the reason why this is bad in law.
Maria, see, the objective, demonetization process, outcome, and we have to see the process, intent and impact. So far as the judicial process, the legislative competence, the competence to take a decision for demonetization, whether it was well within the powers, within the legislative competence, the Supreme Court has answered that it was right. There was a proximate nexus, and the Supreme Court has already found that the decision taken by the government was very well within the parameters of law. Now coming to the second aspect, the ground report. I and you and Shama and other panelists, Mr. Gopal, will also agree कि अब सवाल ये है कि अब आप कहाँ जाते हैं? जाते हैं सब्जी वाले के पास, चाय वाले के पास, रिक्शे वाले के पास. You don't have to carry cash. डिजिटल पेमेंट का जो ट्रांजैक्शन उसके बाद शुरू हुआ, हमने दुनिया में एक एग्जांपल सेट किया. दूसरा, तालाब में पैसा मिल रहा है, बसेस में पैसा मिल रहा है, सड़कों पे पैसा मिल रहा है, नोट्स जलाए जा रहे हैं और इनकम टैक्स अथॉरिटीज को ब्लैक मनी के रिसोर्सेस मिल रहे हैं. मेरे जैसा मिडिल क्लास का व्यक्ति, वो he will understand that how the country, the black money has been eradicated. Now the another thing, corruption is reduced drastically due to demonetization. We are a country of more than 145 crores now. We cannot say that 100% corruption has gone, but the dealing of black money stops abruptly because of the demonetization. Liability of the government is reduced by the introduction of, I'm not in favor of government. Don't consider
yes.
that I'm favoring.
Yes, because you know the point that you made about digital transactions rising phenomenally and ensuring better transparency is something that I'm going to say it's a personal experience as well. I've seen that transparency come in the last few years, and that is something that is laudable. Come in on this, Gopal Agarwal. Gopal Agarwal, while I would agree that the government stands vindicated and it's been a 6-year long wait for the government. Of course, electorally, if you look at it, your policy was validated by multiple election victories which happened one after the other, immediate being 2017 assembly elections of Uttar Pradesh. But just look at the minority dissenting judgment. It says legislation made in secrecy is an ordinance.
Maria, we have to understand the process of Supreme Court and why the opposition, particularly Congress, deals with this kind of situation. Whether it is Aadhaar, Rafale, or any of the issues wherever a democratic institution in the country has a counter opinion against the Congress party, they just denounce it. That's the only way they are doing it. There were 58 petitions, and they must have covered everything. They have covered every aspect of this demonetization. And the Supreme Court in its initial remark had said that it will other things will be an academic discussions. The thing is, what has been the process legal? Ultimately, how a democratic elected government will work. It will work according to the process and legal procedures and laws. Otherwise, every decision is a prerogative of the elected government. If our government, and particularly Narendra Modi ji, has taken certain decision and that has been challenged in the Supreme Court about the legality and other things, that is well established. So it is our right to take a decision. Then the second thing is, there are so many aspects that if you may criticize it on the impact analysis, you yourself has pointed out, only one data I will give you. In 2016, 88% of the total transactions were taking place in the cash form. That has been reduced to 20% of the GDP. The thing is that digital transaction has increased. Cash circulation component with respect to GDP has come down. We have seen increase in tax collection. Yesterday, GST collection figure came to 1,49,000 crores. So the tax base has increased. So when there are clear-cut data points which shows that India has seen 782 crores of digital transactions, which were 1 lakh transactions in 2016. So in December, so when you are seeing such a massive change in the whole ecosystem, behavioral changes, and you cannot, we have several times said that demonetization is one of the steps together with the government had taken to hit at the backbone of the black money in the country. You'd see Benami properties.
Okay, yes, Shama, the question is that there have been multiple policies of this government which has been criticized by the opposition, the Article 370 abrogation, triple talaq, labor law, demonetization, GST. We have seen in recent times the advantages of these policies, particularly GST, how the entire tax slab has increased, the tax base has increased. Would you now say that, retrospectively we are all wiser? You can also say that perhaps the criticism was wrong then, and now that it has been, the test of time is the biggest test. This policy has stood the test of time, just as GST has. You stand with the government on this. It's all right to, laud the government on its efforts at times.
Maria, I will not change my stance. It is the same. I will criticize till my last breath on demonetization. It killed a lot of people. A lot of now economies have gone off. Now, let me just dig out certain things. One thing I heard, which also Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad said, stone pelting is reduced in the valley. Is stone pelting terrorism? Terrorism right now, what is happening?
Then what it is?
You know that after that, more than 18,000 attacks.
Is stone pelting not terrorism, act of terror?
Let me finish. You're not interrupting anybody else, Maria. Then I don't want to do the debate, no? Let me speak to you nicely and let me put my point across. If the three of them are, and you are with the government of the day, let me put my point across, no? So, what is happening, what is terrorism? Before it was in the valley, now it's in Jammu. Militants are entering the houses and killing them. We know that yesterday what happened. 4 of them killed in cold blood. So militancy has not gone down. One was terrorism. The other thing was black money. Do you know, according to the parliament, 21 to 22, 30,500 crores was deposited in Swiss banks. So what is that? Is that not black money? Where is that money from? What is happening? So that is not me who's saying, it's the parliament. So that is there. And the other thing which they talked about is counterfeit currency. Even when demonetization happened, the counterfeit currency which they got was 41 crore and that is 0.003%. So what are they talking about? And again, in 2020 to 21, there is 10.7% increase in counterfeit currency.
I have just enough time
fail to understand
for the final comments from Mr. Gandhi.
Again, I will not agree to this. I mean, that the demonetization in the wrong run is done.
The opposition is continuing with its opposition to demonetization, Mr. Gandhi. How do you look at politics aside? The advantages have been several. We have counted them. Then where do you look at this entire demonetization playing out now?
Yeah, the benefits, of course, several benefits I can list out. Sorry. The first is that the general awareness among the public has come relating to how to deal with the black money, terrorist financing and counterfeiting. So such a large awareness is a positive point. And then even in the counterfeit notes also, we are not seeing the counterfeit notes which we used to see, the type that we used to see in the previous series which have been demonetized. So that high quality counterfeit notes, nowadays it is not there. What we see now typically is something like photocopying type, so which is a very crude way of doing that. Kind of counterfeiting will always be there, but that's not a major cause for concern. The major cause at that time was the kind of sophistication with which the counterfeit notes had come, that 500 and 1,000 of the earlier series. So that is by bringing in the complete new series through the demonetization scheme, we have achieved that purpose. That's all right. Number two, of course, there was some mention about the number of counterfeit notes have been increased and I think, but that is in absolute terms. But we have to see in proportion to the total number of notes in circulation. If you see that is continuously coming down. All right. So that is another all
right, Mr. Gandhi, we have really come to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much, Shama Mohammed, Gopal Agarwal, Ashwani Dubey and Mr. Gandhi. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, the Modi government won in the People's Court soon after the demonetization move in 2016, when the 2017 assembly elections happened in India's biggest state of Uttar Pradesh. And today, it won in the Supreme Court of India. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow.